Good afternoon, y'all. I know I said earlier I was going to be done shooting video today, but I've been tinkering with the tractor a little bit. I figure I might as well go ahead and get some video from this too. So here's what's going on. Had to go ahead and do some rewiring, and we'll go ahead and go through all that here in just a quick minute. Let me flip this around. Okay, so again, this is a 1951 Harry Ferguson TO-20 tractor. This is before Massey went ahead and bought Ferguson, and so this is pretty much this is very similar to a Ford 8N. I apologize for the wind because it's got to go ahead and kick up while we're doing video. But anyway, very similar to an 8N. This was the first tractor to have the hydraulic lift on the back. Ferguson went ahead and patented it and then sold the design to Ford. Well, actually, it was a handshake deal. They were supposed to be selling it to Ford, and then Ford went ahead and boned them on it. So either way, that's old history, but I mean, this is real deal. Look at right there, you got the big old HF, Harry Ferguson, on the axles. Got Ferguson on the hood. What I've got going on right now, I said this one's set for a couple of years. I did rebuild the block itself, well, not the block, but did go ahead and do a piston and sleeve kit in it. So the rotating assembly was pretty much new. The bottom end I didn't touch. The fuel tank I did go ahead and replace. The carburetor needed to be replaced, and I was having issues with the wiring because this guy kind of had been parked out in the elements. I had been trying to go ahead and park it underneath the awning on the back side of the house, but other things started taking that place, and next thing you know, this guy's sitting out in the weather. As a result, the solenoid goes bad, the wiring starts getting hinky. The wiring between the starter and the solenoid was the same wiring that was on there when I bought this tractor. And again, that was about 16 years ago. A lot of it's been kind of cobbled together, as you can see right here. The issue that I've got going on right now, it does go ahead and crank up quite nicely. Well, duh. Oh, wait a minute. It cranks up quite nicely when you put the negative cable on, dipshit. So anyway, it does crank up nicely. It spins over pretty good. The issue that I've got going on right now is that I have nothing coming, one more time in English, got tongue-tied. I've got nothing coming out of the ignition coil, so no spark. If I remember correctly, there's a Pertronics kit in the distributor, but even still, there should be something coming out of the coil, if nothing else. So what I traced it back to is this toggle switch right here, which is my ignition. Down is off, up is on, and push the button to start. So I went ahead and checked out with my test light here, my handy dandy tells me everything tool, and went ahead and connected that up to a good ground. I've got power to the bottom side, which is the inlet, or the supply side to the switch, but I've got nothing coming out that goes to the ignition coil. So until I go ahead and replace that switch, I'm pretty well stuck there. I also got a little bit concerned because I noticed when I was cranking on it, I wasn't seeing any oil pressure show up. It's a mechanical oil pressure gauge, so something should have been happening, and I wasn't seeing it. I was like, what the hell? I checked the oil beforehand. I knew there was oil in it, and I knew that even though it's been sitting out in the elements, I wasn't getting rainwater in it because, again, the air intake is right here, which is under the hood. It's an oil bath air cleaner. It runs down into the carburetor. Runs down into the carburetor right there. So I would have to literally go ahead and get water all the way up to here in order to go ahead and have that happen. With the hood closed, this is protected from the elements. But just the same, I was like, what's going on here? So I forgot. Well, let me back up. So I go ahead and I pull the drain plug on the pan and drop the filter and the the drain all at the same time. But as I started to go ahead and undo the drain, or the retaining nut for the filter assembly, I noticed what looked like water. Now, keep in mind, there was no chocolate goo, none of that stuff in my oil pan. So when I start seeing a little bit of what looks like water, when we're talking about maybe 3 or 4 ounces, if that, and then next thing you know, I've got oil. I had oil pretty much right there anyway. But I started racking my head going, you know, what the hell? How did I get water in this engine? It's got coolant in it, so it's not from freezing and then cracking and leaking. That's not the issue. It's had antifreeze in it the entire time, so non-issue there. Where would I have got water? And then I remembered, wait a minute, this thing's set for 4 years. The rotating assembly was stuck. I didn't want to go ahead and get super carried away with trying to drag it in gear and risk breaking a gear. So I tried penetrating oil. Penetrating oil didn't work. And then I remember a little trick that I learned from Puddin over at Puddin's Fab Shop. Thank you, Puddin. Vinegar in the cylinders, white distilled vinegar. Went ahead and put a couple ounces in each cylinder and let it set overnight. The next day with the spark plugs out, I went ahead and went to roll it backwards, and sure enough, it shot penetrating oil and vinegar across the front yard. Children, please. So it shot penetrating oil and vinegar across the front yard. The rotating assembly started moving again, but obviously piston rings are not 100% seal, and a couple ounces of that vinegar got into the bottom of the oil pan. I was gonna have to go ahead and change the oil anyway, and so yeah, there's probably just a little bit that got into the oil pump, but at the same point, it'll be fine. It never fired off. It was just cranking at crank speed, so not a big deal. I'm gonna stop by the store and get fresh oil for it tomorrow, and a new ignition switch, and then we will be good to go. So Harry will be firing up and available to purchase. You know, anybody that wants a 1951 Harry Ferguson tractor, let me know. 4-cylinder Continental Z120 engine, 4-speed transmission. I did go through the transmission and hydraulics when I first got this thing and put the correct mineral oil back in it. It doesn't use the hydraulic oil. It's got I can't remember. It's been a long time since I went ahead and looked up. Something to do with the fiber or something or other for the hydraulic lift or the hydraulic pump. So anyway, it does have the correct mineral oil in it that's specified. As you can see on the back wheel, one of the wheel seals is leaking a little bit. I'm not going to mess with it. If you want to go ahead and split the back end, fine. It weeps, but other than that, the brakes work on it. It works just fine. Again, it's 1951. What do you want? I'm not going to go through and fully restore this thing. It runs, it drives, it powers a brush hog just fine. I've used it with brush hog. I've used it with a box blade, 6-foot box blade, 4-foot brush hog, and it works great. So I just upgraded with the Kubota this year. So I've got a diesel tractor with a front end loader, and that fits my needs a whole lot better. Anyway, we're back to windy again, so y'all have a good evening. Be safe, be good to each other, and I'll shoot some more video tomorrow once the sucker's running again.